Thanks for having me.
So you were our keynote, and there are a lot of people here interested in what you're here to say. So what are some of the insights you can share in what's happening in big data today?
Well, I think it's so early in the adoption of big data technologies. I think there's still a lot of confusion about what big data is. And one of the things we're trying to communicate is that big data is three things. It's the data itself, it's these breakthrough tools that are enabling people to take advantage of the data, but then the most important thing is the value that people are gaining out of the insights that they get from the data. And I think all three things are important, but it's important to distinguish. In our industry, we're really focused a lot on the tools and the infrastructure to enable it, but ultimately everybody's got their eye on that huge prize of the business value and positive societal impact that can come from harnessing the data that today we're largely just throwing away.
You know, it's interesting you said that. I see a lot of companies, they use the word big data very casually. They talk about Hadoop, they talk about Cassandra. They're throwing these terms out as if it's just something for everyone. So are there real moments of hype, or are these really true industry changes?
Well, that's a great question. I think, relative to the tools, I think you start with I work for Intel, and a lot of what's happening is based on Moore's law. The processing power and the low cost of storage and the improvements in network bandwidth have enabled some capabilities now that break through frameworks like the NoSQL databases, Cassandra, MongoDB, Couch, and the Hadoop framework can take advantage of. So from our perspective, Hadoop is a foundational technology. It is not a solution. It's not even close to a solution, but it's one of those foundational technologies that solutions of a broad variety can be built on. And it's important for us to move the Hadoop framework forward beyond where it's at today. It's batch-oriented, it's slow, it's not secure, it's not real-time, but it can be. All those things, we have line of sight to driving the innovations into the Hadoop framework to make it truly transformative. So I think it's easy to overhype what Hadoop can do today, but it's almost impossible to overhype the importance of Hadoop long term.
I agree with that, actually, and the reason I say that is because some of our clients that we're seeing in the industry, they really talk about Hadoop as a means to an end, and I think, like you said, it's not the complete solution, but they talk about some of it's hype, but they talk about the goals about data delighting their customers, providing some insights into their products. What do you think are the most common uses or solutions one can gain out of the big data?
Well, I think that's one area where there's a broad alignment in our industry. I think there's a couple of categories that are out ahead of using the Hadoop framework. One I see as the most common, and one of the most common drivers is all different forms of consumer engagement or customer engagement. How do you, through a variety of interactions you have with your customers, whoever they are, whether you're a telco or a bank or a grocery store, how do you take all of those interactions with your customers and drive a level of insight and intimacy with them? So that whole consumer engagement, consumer behavior is a huge category. We see an enormous amount in risk and fraud management and protecting data, protecting information, and then you see a lot around kind of public safety. The idea of using the vast amounts of data we get to improve traffic, to reduce crime, and then I think the last category is any really, really complex system that generates all sorts of data about how the system's performing. You can use big data tools to start to optimize that system infrastructure. So those are kind of the big categories, and they really apply across vertical market segments and across geographies. We see some countries like the United States, I think, is a little out ahead. We've actually seen immense growth in China, and we see a lot of interest in places like Asia and Latin America even. So this is a global phenomena across vertical markets because it has those, things like getting in touch with your customers better is universal for any organization. Any government would want to keep their citizens safe and reduce traffic. So these are universal goals, so I think that's why you see these tools being adopted, at least being explored universally. The challenge we have is they're the leaders and innovators in all those fields. The average organization still doesn't have the skills, the capabilities, and the tools are too immature to make it that broadly used. So we're kind of out on the leading edge of those vertical markets.
So tell us, what is Intel's position? What are their goals? What are they doing these days?
Well, we, at Intel are participating in a very different way for us. We have a long history of participating in open source, leading contributions to Linux, for instance. But it's always been as part of the community. And with the Hadoop framework, we've actually brought to market a commercial offering. And we're doing that because we believe that we can advance the community faster by participating with a commercial offering. So we're driving security, real-time performance, reliability, all really built from our intimate knowledge of the underlying hardware, because we're so close to that infrastructure that we feel like we can propel the Hadoop framework forward. All in open source. We're contributing everything back to open source in these enhancements, but we believe we can drive growth in our core business as well as grow a brand new business by providing a commercial Hadoop offering. And we're looking to build an ecosystem of these vertical applications on top of that base level software. We're not going to try to be the huge solution provider. We're a technology company, but we can, much like we did with the original chips that we built, build a huge new industry, an ecosystem around our foundational technology. And that's what we're hoping to do. So
you're here to represent your company and yourself. What is something you would say at TiCon is value that you'd like to share that they should get from the conference as well as from yourself?
Well, the conference is all about entrepreneurialism, and I'm part of a startup inside Intel, and entrepreneurialism is alive and well not only with startup companies but with healthy organizations. And I think the culture of TiCon is a culture of innovation and entrepreneurialism, and I think that kind of excitement, it really permeates whether you're at a place like Intel or whether you're at a venture-backed startup.
Well, that's excellent. Thank you for being here today with us.
Thanks for having me.